In the beginning, in dimensions filled with life energy called zone energy, there was only one spark, or laser core, spawned from primal energies of that plane. The original spark had the ability to merge with any machine and become its central nervous system in order to give that machine life. Its offspring shared this ability. It divided into smaller sparks, each possessing unimaginable power. Some of these sparks were violent and irrational, while others were peaceful and benevolent and shunned their brutal siblings. Many of the brutal sparks left the zone dimension, spread out across the universe, while the benevolent ones remained behind, growing in wisdom and knowledge. The violent sparks devoured all life and destroyed all matter they encountered, growing stronger and stronger. When there was no matter left to devour, they turned on each other. Most were destroyed or devoured by a powerful dark spark. Some of the violent ones fled to other dimensions to escape that dark spark. Eventually, all matter was destroyed, and all life in the universe was devoured, and that dark spark was all that was left. Finally contented, the dark spark slumbered. As it slept, the cosmic fragments of destroyed matter reacted with each other and created a new universe. Many of the benevolent sparks left the zone dimension and nurtured the newborn life that was growing in the universe. Eventually, the dark spark awoke, and without questioning how this new universe came to be, began destroying and devouring anew. Most of the benevolent sparks were destroyed or devoured by the dark spark. The most powerful of the benevolent sparks was found by an alien named Primicron, who named it Primus. As the spark developed, Primus proved to be very powerful. Primus developed the power to reproduce without diminishing his own essence, unlike his siblings, which multiplied by dividing, splitting into perfect duplicates of the parents, and thus giving their offspring common memories. Primus's children were individuals with no memories prior to creation. He found favor in Primicron's sight. Primicron made Primus his assistant. Primicron would build magnificent robots, even designing a body for Primus to inhabit, and Primus would fill them with life. Primus's joy grew greater and greater as more of his offspring came to life. Primicron and Primus worked together for many cycles upon a special project, a small planetoid that would fuel itself on space debris called Unicron, that could also transform into a robot. As the project neared completion, the Dark Spark found them. Primus battled the Dark Spark, but the Dark Spark was too powerful. Primus tricked the Dark Spark into merging with the Unicron body, trapping the spark within it, but also forging a psychic link between the two. Primicron, unaware of the Dark Spark's existence, sees Unicron transform of its own accord. Primicron tries to override his creations, but to no avail. Unicron turns its full fury upon Primicron's lab. Primus's body was destroyed, as well as all of his children. Primus, seeking to draw Unicron away from Primicron, fled and led Unicron on a chase across the galaxy. Primus finally hid within a large metallic, too large for Unicron to ingest. Frustrated, Unicron drifted away to devour more and grow larger. But Primus was not alone. Inside the planet lived metallic monsters who devoured the very metal of the planet, as well as any other creature who happened to fall within their grasp. They attacked Primus, but they were no match for him. Unwilling to destroy another living being, Primus placed the creatures into a deep sleep and entombed them within the planet. Primus, sensing the mental link that he and Unicron shared, went into a trance, in the hope that he would remain hidden, perhaps even thought to be dead, until he was ready to face the Dark Spark again. Millions of years passed. Unicron grew larger and larger with every meal. While journeying across the galaxy, Devouring planet after planet, Unicron decided on a new course of action. He found a race of sentient organic invertebrates on a planet that he was about to devour. With some consideration, Unicron decided to use these creatures to his advantage. They had a very high intelligence potential, but were very weak-bodied. He took them all and reformed them into cyborgs, half organic, half mechanical. He placed into their unconscious minds to seek out Primus's planet and destroy anything resembling a spark, then prepared them for space travel, sent them off into the galaxy. Unicron wiped their minds of any knowledge of himself, their homeworld, or their creation. The Quintessons, after thousands of years, discovered the metallic planet and colonized it. They survived as merchants and capitalist industrialists, so they mined the planet's ores and rebuilt the planet into a gigantic factory, and they named it Cybertron. The Quintessons became very prosperous because of this planet. It became a home to them. After a failed attempt to produce cyborg slaves, named transorganics, they chose to pursue completely mechanical servants. They produced mechanicals for every imaginable use. The most successful were the slave units, available in two forms, light-duty and heavy-duty slaves, and the gladiator units, mainly sold as military hardware. The Quintessons developed stellar energy gatherers on Cybertron. These units gathered cosmic energy into two forms, energon and plasma energy. The latter was potent, unstable, and destructive to mechanoids. Gigantic rocket boosters were also built to keep the planet aligned for optimal life support around their home star. The noise of such industry stirred Primus, who was hidden deep within Cybertron. When Primus emerged, he saw a planet teeming with machines like he had never seen before. They were strong and versatile. They were exactly what he would need to prepare for the coming conflict with Unicron. Primus reproduced and gave life to a few of the robots, some gladiators, some slaves. Primus wanted a peaceful coexistence with the Quintessons, but upon discovering some of his children, they quickly destroyed them. Every attempt at peace was met with the same response: death. The Quintessons viewed the sparks as an infection and a threat to their way of life. They sought to kill every last one of Primus's children. A war of survival had begun. To bolster his forces, Primus begat more sparks to live within more robots. Primus and his children won a decisive battle at the planet's core, and Primus merged with the supercomputer that ran the planetary factories, Vector Sigma. He placed his life force into a mobile receptacle to be carried by his children so that life could be spread. Only two of Primus's children could access the Matrix, one of which was the slave called Primon, the other from the gladiator class named Maximo. They became the leaders of their respective classes. The gladiator class did most of the fighting, while the slave class kept up supply lines, repairs, and construction of new troops. The Quintessons were losing the battle rapidly. As often as they would kill off 1,000 robots, 2,000 more would be created. As a final effort, the Quintessons built an army of giant robots called Dark Guardians. With them, the Quintessons hoped to finally eradicate the robots. However, they did not count on the Matrix or the resourcefulness of a rebel robot named A3. The Dark Guardians inflicted many casualties amongst the robots. The Quintessons finally had the upper hand. They had A3 and his army cornered, ripe for destruction. But A3 had developed a device called the Coda Remote that could simply deactivate the Dark Guardians. At this point, A3 activated the Coda Remote and shut down all of the Dark Guardians. The Quintessons lost their main advantage that day. but were able to retain much of the planet, until Primus used the Matrix to give life to the Dark Guardians, which afterwards became simply Guardians. The Guardians joined Primons and Maximo's rebels, and together they drove the Quintessons from Cybertron. The Quintessons could not leave all of Cybertron's resources to the rebels. Then they would be unstoppable. The Quintessons rigged Cybertron's greatest energy resource, the Plasma Energy Chamber, to overload. The Energon facilities were safe in rebel control. The Quintessons would continue to spy on their creations, and would even abduct some for experimentations, to find some weaknesses. In time, they learned how to clone the sparks of their abductees, although they dumbed them down for control purposes, and began production of a new type of servant. This began the golden age of Cybertron.